your brain on pop culture.
Having the highest grossing film in any category is impressive stuff, and that honour belongs to a select few directors. Directors who've been taking part in the tradition for nearly 50 years now. By early 1976, Steven Spielberg's Jaws was the highest grossing film domestically. It ushered in the era of the summer blockbuster, confirmed the following summer with the release of Star Wars, which was the first film to make $500 million worldwide, but more importantly, overtook Jaws as the #1 domestic film of all time. So Spielberg wanted to tip his hat to friend and fellow filmmaker George Lucas. He took out a full-page ad in Variety congratulating George and team for overtaking Jaws with a cheeky image of R2-D2 catching the shark from Jaws. I didn't say he got Jaws, because the shark isn't called Jaws. 5 years later, Lucas got his chance to respond as E.T. broke Star Wars' record, so he sent Spielberg a card with the Star Wars characters celebrating E.T. I want to take this moment to remind you that E.T.'s species canonically exists in the Star Wars universe, which I find confusing. When the Star Wars special editions came out, the crown was once more passed back to Star Wars. A Lucas-Spielberg streak, though, was about to be destroyed. Like Alderaan. Less than a year later, Titanic was released, and it was a whole different type of monster. It was the first film to hit $1 billion globally. It was the first film to hit $600 million domestically, and with that, Lucas sent artwork to James Cameron showing the Titanic sinking, plagued with Star Wars characters. That record would stand for a long time. In fact, the record would be broken by Cameron himself with Avatar. So there was no poster. I mean, the guy might have an ego, but not enough to congratulate himself. At least not publicly. It gets a bit overdone and messy from here. At times it feels like more of a promotional gimmick than a nod between fellow directors. It also stops being about the biggest domestic gross and becomes about the biggest worldwide gross, while also having a tradition of acknowledging the biggest domestic opening weekend. Marvel starts the opening weekend tradition when it sends a note to Universal congratulating Jurassic World on breaking the record set by the opening weekend of the Avengers. It wouldn't last long though, as by the end of that year, The Force Awakens would break that record again, so Universal tipped their hat. Technically, under the old tradition, Cameron should also congratulate them, as they are still the highest grossing film domestically. Lucasfilm would eventually have to pass the baton back to the Avengers though when Infinity War came out. And there would be no passing of the torch when the next one happened. It was Avengers Endgame, so there was no poster because it was the same people working on it. That record would be broken again more recently with Spider-Man Brand New Day. The directors of Infinity War and Endgame, the Russos, did acknowledge it. The biggest worldwide tradition is actually started by James Cameron and doesn't technically start as the biggest worldwide. He congratulates the team at Marvel first when Endgame passes out to Titanic, the first film outside of his own to do so. And then about 2 months later, he's got to put out another poster as Endgame just inches past Avatar to become the highest grossing film ever globally. As there wasn't much between Endgame and Avatar, a re-release of the latter saw it once more take the top spot, and the Russos acknowledged this with a post saying, "Passing the gauntlet back to you, James Cameron." A gauntlet that to this day, he has not had to pass on.